Corey Daniels never imagined a routine drive home would reveal the darkest secret in his quiet town. The single dad and former veteran found a woman barely clinging to life on the side of Hartley Road, beaten, bloodied, and left for dead in the bitter cold. But this wasn't just any victim. She was Kira Dawson, the billionaire CEO whose anonymous donation had saved Corey's young son from a life-threatening illness 3 years ago. The woman who'd given his family a second chance, now lay dying in his arms, whispering warnings about powerful people who wanted her silenced. What Corey didn't know was that saving her life would thrust him into a dangerous web of corporate corruption, deadly secrets, and a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of power. This is a story about courage, redemption, and how one act of kindness can change everything. Stay with me until the end, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story reaches. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The November rain came down in sheets across Route 47, turning the two-lane highway into a dark mirror that reflected nothing but Corey Daniels' headlights cutting through the storm. It was 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday night, and he was bone-tired from pulling a double shift at Brennan's Construction Supply. His hands still ached from loading pallets all day, and his lower back reminded him with every pothole that he wasn't 25 anymore. At 36, Corey had learned to push through the exhaustion. Single fathers didn't get the luxury of calling it quits when their bodies protested. His 7-year-old son Hunter was spending the night at his grandmother's house, which meant Corey had taken the late shift to bank some extra hours. Hunter's birthday was coming up in 2 weeks, and the kid had been dropping hints about a particular gaming console that cost more than Corey made in a week. The wipers beat a rhythmic pattern across the windshield of his 2005 Silverado as he navigated the winding road between Ashford and the smaller suburb of Millerton where he'd just finished his shift. This stretch of highway was notoriously empty after dark, cutting through farmland and patches of dense forest. Most people took the interstate, but Corey preferred this route. It shaved 15 minutes off his drive, and tonight, every minute mattered. He wanted to get home, shower off the day's grime, and maybe catch an hour of sleep before his alarm went off at 6. The rain intensified, and Corey leaned forward, squinting through the downpour. His high beams barely penetrated 20 feet ahead. He was thinking about whether he had enough coffee for the morning when something in the road caught his attention. At first, he thought it was a deer. The shape was wrong, though. Too angular, too still. His foot eased off the accelerator, and his heart rate kicked up a notch. As his headlights swept across the scene, Corey's breath caught in his throat. It was a person, a woman, lying motionless on the gravel shoulder, half hidden by the tall grass that bordered the road. Her body was twisted at an unnatural angle, one arm stretched out toward the asphalt as if reaching for help that had never come. "Jesus Christ," Corey muttered, slamming on the brakes. The truck fishtailed slightly on the wet pavement before jerking to a stop on the shoulder. He threw the transmission into park, grabbed his phone and the heavy-duty flashlight he kept under the passenger seat, and jumped out into the storm. The rain hit him like a physical force, instantly soaking through his work jacket. Thunder rumbled overhead as Corey ran toward the figure, his boots splashing through puddles. His flashlight beam bounced wildly, and as he got closer, the scene became horrifyingly clear. The woman lay crumpled against the metal guardrail like someone had thrown her from a moving vehicle. Her expensive-looking clothes were torn and muddy. A blouse that might have been cream-colored now streaked with dirt and what looked like blood. Her dark hair was matted to her face, and even in the dim light, Corey could see the bruises. Deep purple and black marks covered her face, her arms, everywhere. She wasn't wearing shoes. Her bare feet were cut and bleeding, as if she'd been running through rough terrain. "Ma'am," Corey called out, dropping to his knees beside her. His hands shook as he checked for a pulse. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" For a terrible moment, he thought she was dead. Then he felt it, a weak, thready pulse beneath his fingers. She was alive, but barely. Hey, I'm here to help," Corey said, forcing his voice to stay calm, even though his heart was hammering against his ribs. I'm calling for help right now. Just hang on. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The woman's eyes suddenly fluttered open, and Corey jerked back in surprise. Her eyes were hazel, he noticed, even through the swelling and pain etched across her face. They locked onto him with an intensity that made him forget to breathe. The 911 operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? I'm on Route 47, about 8 miles north of Ashford, Corey said quickly, his words tumbling out. I found a woman on the side of the road. She's hurt bad, really bad. Looks like she was beaten. She's conscious, but barely. I need an ambulance right now. Is she breathing normally? Yeah, but she's freezing. She's soaked from the rain. Corey was already shrugging out of his work jacket, draping it over the woman's shivering body. She was ice cold to the touch. How long had she been out here in this storm? Can you tell if she has any major injuries? Any bleeding? Corey scanned her body with his flashlight. Blood, yes. A lot of it. But he couldn't tell where it was all coming from in the darkness and rain. Her head, definitely. Her hands were scraped raw. Her side, maybe. The fabric of her blouse was torn there, darker with what could be blood or just rain-soaked cloth. Head wound for sure. Hands are cut up. Maybe her ribs. I can't tell. There's too much blood. His voice cracked. Please. Just send someone. Fast. Help is on the way. Sir. Stay with her. Keep her warm if you can. Can you ask her name? Corey looked down at the woman. Her eyes were closing again. Hey. Stay with me. Don't close your eyes. What's your name? Can you tell me your name? The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Corey leaned closer, his ear near her mouth. Run, she whispered, so faintly he almost missed it. You need to run. What? No, I'm not leaving you. Help is coming. They'll come back. Her voice was barely audible over the rain. Each word seemed to cost her everything. Not safe. They'll kill you too. A chill ran down Corey's spine that had nothing to do with the cold rain soaking through his shirt. Who'll come back? Who did this to you? But she'd gone silent again, her eyes drifting closed despite his attempts to keep her conscious. Corey looked around at the empty highway, suddenly hyper-aware of how isolated they were. The rain created a gray curtain in every direction. If someone had done this to her, if they were still out here, he and this woman were sitting ducks. He pushed the thought away. She needed help, and he wasn't about to abandon her in the mud like garbage. Whatever danger she was running from, they'd face it together until the ambulance arrived. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Corey had never been so relieved to hear that sound in his entire life. You hear that? He said to the woman, even though her eyes remained closed. That's help coming. You're going to be okay. Just hold on a little longer. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later, but it felt like hours. 2 paramedics jumped out. A young guy with red hair and a woman with sharp eyes who moved with practiced efficiency. They had a stretcher and medical bags, and they descended on the scene like a well-oiled machine. What have we got? The female paramedic asked, kneeling beside Corey. Found her like this maybe 10 minutes ago, Corey said, moving back to give them room but staying close. She's been in and out of consciousness. Looks like she was beaten. She said something about people coming back, about it not being safe, but I don't know what she meant. The male paramedic was checking her vitals, shining a penlight in her eyes. Pupils reactive but sluggish. Possible concussion, multiple contusions and lacerations. BP is low. She's hypothermic. We need to get her warmed up and get fluids going now. They worked with incredible speed, wrapping her in thermal blankets, starting an IV, carefully loading her onto the stretcher. Corey stood back, watching, his jacket still draped over her shoulders. He felt useless suddenly, like he should be doing more, but didn't know what. You riding with her? The female paramedic asked as they wheeled the stretcher toward the ambulance. I'll follow in my truck, Corey said. Which hospital? Ashford Memorial. You saved her life, you know. Another hour out here in this storm, and she would have died from exposure. The words hit Corey harder than he expected. He nodded, unable to speak past the sudden lump in his throat. As they loaded her into the ambulance, the woman's hands slipped out from under the blanket. Corey caught a glimpse of something that made him pause, a bracelet on her wrist. Even damaged and muddy, he could tell it was expensive. Really expensive. The kind of jewelry you didn't see often in a working-class town like Ashford. The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the vehicle pulled away, sirens wailing back to life. Corey stood there for a moment in the pouring rain, the adrenaline starting to wear off and leaving him shaky and cold. His hands trembled as he climbed back into his truck and started the engine. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Who was she? What had happened to her? And why did she look so terrified when she told him to run? He followed the ambulance's taillights through the rain, his mind racing with questions he couldn't answer. One thing was certain, his quiet life in Ashford had just gotten a lot more complicated. Ashford Memorial Hospital sat on the east side of town, a sprawling brick complex that had been expanded 3 times over the past 40 years. Corey parked in the emergency lot and hurried inside, his wet clothes squelching with every step. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the darkness of the highway, making him squint as he approached the reception desk. A nurse with tired eyes and graying hair looked up from her computer. "Can I help you?" "I came in with the woman they just brought in," Corey said. "From Route 47. I'm the one who found her. I just want to know if she's okay." The nurse's expression softened slightly. "Are you family?" "No, I just found her on the side of the road, but I need to know she's alive." "I'm sorry, sir. We can only release information to family members." Corey ran a hand through his wet hair, frustrated. "She doesn't have anyone. She was alone out there. I just need to know she made it. The doctors are with her now. That's all I can tell you. You'll need to take a seat." Before Corey could argue, a voice called out from down the hallway. "Sir? Excuse me. Sir." He turned to see a man in a police uniform walking toward him. He was in his early 40s, with dark skin and sharp, observant eyes. His name tag read, "Detective Bishop." "You're the one who called it in?" Detective Reggie Bishop asked. "Yeah, Corey Daniels. I'm Detective Bishop. I need to ask you some questions about what you saw tonight." Corey's stomach tightened. "Am I in trouble?" "No, nothing like that. We just need to get your statement. Can we sit?" They moved to a corner of the waiting room, away from the few other people scattered around at this late hour. An elderly man coughing into a tissue. A young mother with a feverish toddler. The normal late-night emergency room crowd. Detective Bishop pulled out a small notebook. "Take me through what happened, from the beginning." Corey recounted everything, leaving work at Brennan's, driving home on Route 47, seeing the shape on the side of the road, finding the woman, calling 911. He tried to remember every detail, no matter how small, the rain, the cold, the way she'd looked at him with those terrified eyes. "Did she say anything to you?" Bishop asked. His pen poised over the notebook. "Just a few words. She told me to run. Said they would come back. She seemed really scared." "They?" "She specifically said they?" "Yeah. Or maybe he. I'm not sure. It was hard to hear over the rain. She was barely conscious." Bishop made notes. "Did you see any other vehicles? Anyone else on the road?" "No, it was completely empty. Just rain and darkness." "And you didn't recognize her?" The question made Corey pause. There was something in the way Bishop asked it, like the detective knew more than he was letting on. "No," Corey said slowly. "Should I?" Bishop studied him for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. "Mr. Daniels, the woman you found, did you notice anything distinctive about her? Jewelry, clothing, anything that stood out?" Corey thought back. She had expensive clothes, or they looked expensive before they were destroyed. And a bracelet, really nice one. Why? Who is she? Before Bishop could answer, a commotion erupted from the emergency bay. Raised voices. Someone shouting. Both Corey and the detective jumped to their feet. A man in an expensive three-piece suit was arguing with the ER staff, his voice echoing through the hallway. He was in his early 50s with silver-gray hair slicked back and a face flushed red with anger. "I demand to see her right now," the man was saying. "Do you have any idea who I am? Who she is?" "Sir, you need to calm down," a nurse was saying. "We can't let anyone back there right now." "The hell you can't. I'm her business partner. Check your records. I'm her emergency contact." Detective Bishop moved quickly toward the scene, and Corey followed. As they got closer, Corey got a better look at the man. Everything about him screamed wealth and power. His suit probably cost more than Corey's truck. His watch could have paid Corey's rent for 6 months. "What's the problem here?" Bishop asked, his voice calm but authoritative. The man spun toward him. "The problem is that my business partner is in there possibly dying, and these people won't let me see her." "And you are?" "Trevor Walsh. I'm the CFO of Dawntech Industries. The woman they brought in is Kira Dawson, our CEO." The name hit Corey like a punch to the gut. Kira Dawson. He stumbled back a step, his mind reeling. It couldn't be. It couldn't be her. "Mr. Daniels, you okay?" Bishop was looking at him with concern. Corey's mouth had gone dry. "Kira Dawson," he repeated hoarsely. "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure." Walsh snapped. "I've worked with her for 12 years. Now, are you going to let me see her or not?" But Corey wasn't listening anymore. His mind had gone back 4 years, to the worst period of his life. His son Hunter had been diagnosed with a rare heart defect. The surgery he needed was experimental, not covered by insurance. The cost was astronomical. More than Corey could ever hope to afford. He'd sold everything he owned, taken out loans he had no way of repaying, started a fundraiser online that barely made a dent. They were weeks away from losing all hope when a miracle happened. An anonymous donor paid the entire bill, every cent. The hospital forwarded him a letter afterward, typed on expensive letterhead from Dawntech Industries. "Every person deserves a chance at a healthy life. I believe your son deserves that chance. Please accept this gift, and know that some stranger out there is rooting for your family. Take care of that brave young man, KD." Corey had kept that letter. He'd read it so many times the paper had started to wear at the folds. It lived in his wallet, a reminder that good people existed in the world, that when everything seemed darkest, sometimes light broke through in unexpected ways. KD, Kira Dawson. The stranger who'd saved his son's life was the broken, bloodied woman he'd just found dying on Route 47. "Oh my God," Corey breathed. Detective Bishop touched Corey's arm. "Mr. Daniels, do you know her?" "Not personally," Corey managed, his voice cracking. "But 4 years ago, she saved my son's life. Hunter had a heart defect. Needed surgery we couldn't afford. Dawntech Industries, Kira Dawson's company, they paid for everything. Anonymous donation. I never knew who KD was until right now." Bishop's eyes widened slightly. Behind them, Trevor Walsh had stopped arguing with the nurses and was staring at Corey with an expression that was hard to read. Surprise? Guilt? Something else? "Kira did that," Walsh said quietly. His anger seemed to have evaporated, replaced by something that almost looked like shame. Before anyone could respond, a doctor emerged from the emergency bay. She was a tall woman with graying temples and exhausted eyes, her scrub stained with blood. "Family for Kira Dawson? That's me," Walsh said immediately, pushing forward. "How is she?" The doctor glanced at Detective Bishop, who nodded. "She's stable for now. Multiple contusions, severe concussion, 4 broken ribs, and significant lacerations to her hands and feet. She's severely dehydrated and hypothermic. We're warming her slowly and getting fluids in. She's lucky to be alive. Can I see her? 5 minutes. She needs rest. I'll need to speak with you after, Mr. Walsh. Bishop said, "Don't go anywhere." Walsh nodded curtly and followed the doctor through the double doors. Corey stood there feeling lost and overwhelmed. The adrenaline had completely drained away, leaving him hollow and shaky. Detective Bishop turned to him. "Mr. Daniels, I need you to understand something. What happened to Kira Dawson tonight wasn't random. This was targeted. Professional. Someone wanted her dead. Why? That's what we're trying to figure out." Bishop pulled out a business card. "I'm going to ask you to be careful. You're a witness now. You found her. You might have seen something without realizing it. If anyone contacts you, anyone asks questions about tonight, you call me immediately. Understand?" Corey took the card with numb fingers. "You think I'm in danger? I think you should be cautious. That's all." Bishop's expression softened. "You did a good thing tonight. You saved her life. But now I need you to go home. Get some rest. And keep your eyes open. Can you do that?" Corey nodded slowly, though his legs felt like they might give out at any moment. After Bishop walked away to coordinate with other officers who'd arrived, Corey stood alone in the waiting room. He should go home. Hunter was safe at his grandmother's house. There was nothing more Corey could do here, but he couldn't make his feet move. The woman who'd saved his son was fighting for her life in an emergency room, and he was the one who'd found her. The coincidence felt too huge to be random. What were the odds? In a metropolitan area of over 200,000 people, on a random Thursday night, on a stretch of highway he only took because it saved 15 minutes, he'd found the one person in the world he owed everything to. "Mr. Daniels?" He turned to find a nurse standing beside him. Not the one from reception, but a younger woman with kind eyes. "Yes?" Detective Bishop said, "You're the one who found Miss Dawson. She's asking for you." Corey's heart jumped. "She is?" "She's very weak, but she was insistent. Said she needed to thank the man who stopped." 5 minutes. "Okay, she really needs to rest." Corey followed the nurse through the double doors into the emergency wing. The sterile smell of antiseptic hit him immediately. They passed several curtained-off areas before stopping at one near the end. "Remember, just 5 minutes," the nurse said gently before pulling back the curtain. Kira Dawson lay in the hospital bed, small and fragile-looking under white sheets. Monitors beeped softly, tracking her heart rate and oxygen levels. Her face was still swollen and bruised, but someone had cleaned away the blood and bandaged the worst of her wounds. An IV ran into her arm, and her eyes were half closed. "Miss Dawson," Corey said quietly, stepping closer. "I don't know if you remember me. I'm Corey Daniels. I'm the one who found you tonight." Her eyes shifted toward him slowly, focusing with obvious effort. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then her cracked lips moved. "You stayed." The words were so faint Corey had to lean in to hear them. "Yeah, I stayed. I couldn't just leave you there." A single tear rolled down Kira's bruised cheek. "Thank you." "No," Corey said, his own voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. 4 years ago, you saved my son's life. Hunter had a heart defect. Your company. You paid for his surgery. When we had nothing left, I got a letter signed KD. I didn't know it was you until tonight, but I've carried that letter in my wallet every day since. You gave my son a chance at life. So, thank you. Thank you for that." Kira's eyes widened, recognition flickering through the pain. "Hunter," she whispered. "Heart surgery. Experimental procedure." Corey was shocked. She remembered. Out of what must have been hundreds or thousands of people Dawn Tech had helped over the years, she remembered his son. "Yes, he's 8 now, healthy and happy and alive because of you." More tears now. streaming silently down her face. "I'm so glad," she breathed. "So glad he's okay." "Who did this to you?" Corey asked gently. "The police are looking, but they need to know who to look for." Kira's expression changed. Fear flashed in her eyes. She tried to shake her head but winced at the movement. "Can't," she whispered. "Too dangerous. They'll come after you." "I'm not scared." "You should be." Her hand moved weakly on the blanket, reaching toward him. Corey took it carefully, mindful of her injuries. "Trevor, my partner. He's been stealing millions. I found out. He tried to kill me." Corey's blood ran cold. Trevor Walsh. The man who'd been demanding to see her. The man who was probably in this room with her right now. Does Detective Bishop know? Can't prove it. Not yet. Trevor's smart. Covered his tracks. Kira's grip on his hand tightened slightly. "You need to stay away. Please. He'll hurt anyone who gets in his way." "Then let the police protect you." "Let me help." "Why?" Kira's eyes searched his face. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" "Because 4 years ago, you risked something for us. You didn't have to help my family, but you did. That matters." Corey squeezed her hand gently. "You're not alone in this. I promise." Kira looked at him for a long time, and Corey saw something shift in her expression. The wall of fear cracking just slightly. Hope flickering where there had been only despair. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The nurse knocked on the wall outside the curtain. "Time's up, Mr. Daniels." Corey stood reluctantly. "I'll come back tomorrow. If you want me to." "Please," Kira said, and the word held a weight that went beyond simple politeness. As Corey left the emergency bay, his mind was spinning. Trevor Walsh had tried to murder Kira, was probably still planning to finish the job, and now Corey was involved, whether he liked it or not. He passed Trevor Walsh in the hallway. The man was on his phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. When he saw Corey, his expression flickered with something dark before smoothing into false concern. "Is she awake?" Walsh asked. "Barely. She needs rest." "Of course." Walsh's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you for finding her. You're a hero." The word felt wrong coming from him. Corey just nodded and kept walking, his skin crawling. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The parking lot was wet and gleaming under the streetlights. Corey sat in his truck for a long moment before starting the engine, trying to process everything that had happened. He'd gone to work that morning as just another single dad trying to make ends meet. Now he was entangled in an attempted murder, connected to a billionaire CEO, and possibly in danger himself. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Kira's face. The gratitude, the fear, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would stand with her when she needed it most. Corey Daniels had been a lot of things in his 36 years. Soldier, father, survivor. Tonight, he'd add one more. Protector. He pulled out of the parking lot and headed home, already planning his next move. Tomorrow, he'd call his mother to keep Hunter for another day. He'd call his boss to request time off. And he'd go back to that hospital to make sure Kira Dawson didn't face her demons alone. Because some debts couldn't be repaid with money. They could only be repaid with presence, with courage, with the simple act of showing up when someone needed you most. And Corey Daniels always paid his debts. Corey made it home just after 2 a.m. His body exhausted, but his mind racing too fast for sleep. His small rental house on Oakwood Street sat dark and empty. Hunter's absence making it feel even more hollow than usual. He stripped off his wet clothes, showered away the mud and rain, and tried to process the night's events. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kira's battered face. The fear in her eyes when she'd warned him about Trevor Walsh. The weight of her whispered confession that her own business partner had tried to kill her. He must have dozed off around 3:30 a.m. because his phone jolted him awake at 6:15. Unknown number. Corey stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice, digitally distorted, artificial sounding. "You should have kept driving last night." Corey sat up fast, his heart hammering. Who is this? Someone who's giving you a chance. Walk away from Kira Dawson. Forget what you saw. Forget what she told you. This is your only warning. The line went dead. Corey stared at his phone, his hands shaking. He immediately called Detective Bishop, who answered on the second ring despite the early hour. Someone just threatened me, Corey said without preamble. Called from a blocked number. Told me to stay away from Kira. What exactly did they say? Bishop's voice was alert, professional. Corey repeated the conversation word for word. Bishop was silent for a moment. I'm sending officers to your location. Don't go anywhere until they arrive. Where's your son? At my mother's house in Parkdale. About 20 minutes from here. Good. Keep him there for now. I'll have patrol units swing by to check on them. Bishop paused. Mr. Daniels, I need you to understand how serious this is. Whoever went after Kira Dawson has resources, money, connections. They're watching you now. Then we need to stop them before they hurt anyone else. We will, but you need to let law enforcement handle this. After hanging up, Corey called his mother. Patricia Daniels answered, groggily. Corey, it's 6 in the morning. Is everything okay? Mom, I need you to keep Hunter with you for a few more days. Don't take him anywhere public. Don't let him leave the house. What's going on? You're scaring me. Corey had never been good at lying to his mother. He gave her the abbreviated version. Found an injured woman. She turned out to be important. Now there might be some complications. He downplayed the danger, but Patricia had raised him through 2 deployments overseas. She could read between the lines. This woman, she's the one who paid for Hunter's surgery, isn't she? Corey closed his eyes. Of course, his mother would figure it out. Yes. Then you do what you need to do. Hunter's safe with me. But Corey, you be careful. That boy needs his father. I will, Mom. I promise. 2 uniformed officers arrived 20 minutes later to check the house and take a formal statement about the threatening call. They were young, probably fresh out of the academy, but they were thorough. One of them would be stationed outside Corey's house for the next 48 hours. Just a precaution, the older of the 2 officers said. Detective Bishop wants to make sure you're protected. Corey called his supervisor at Brennan's Construction Supply, a gruff man named Sam Brennan, who'd hired Corey straight out of the service 6 years ago. Sam, I need to take some time off. Personal emergency. Everything okay with Hunter? Hunter's fine. It's complicated. I can't really explain right now. Sam was quiet for a moment. How long you need? Maybe a week. I'm not sure yet. Take what you need. Your job will be here when you get back. The relief Corey felt was enormous. Thank you, Sam. I mean it. Just take care of whatever you need to take care of. And Daniels, whatever trouble you're in, you watch your back. By 9 a.m., Corey was back at Ashford Memorial. The day shift nurse at reception recognized him from the night before and waved him through without checking his credentials. The hospital was busier now. Doctors making rounds, visitors arriving with flowers, and get-well balloons. The uniformed officer stationed outside Kira's room checked Corey's ID before letting him enter. Inside, Kira was awake but looked exhausted. Someone had moved her to a private room with actual walls instead of curtains. She wore a hospital gown now, her dark hair pulled back, and the bruises on her face had deepened overnight into spectacular shades of purple and yellow. "You came back," she said when she saw him. Her voice was stronger than last night but still rough. "I said I would." Corey pulled up a chair beside her bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." She managed a weak smile. "The doctors say I'll make a full recovery. Physically, anyway. That's good. That's really good." Kira studied him. "You got a call, didn't you?" "A threat." Corey didn't bother asking how she knew. "This morning. Told me to stay away from you." "You, should listen. Kira's expression was pained. Corey, I meant what I said last night. Trevor is dangerous. He has people working for him. The men who attacked me, they were professionals, hired muscle. And if they're threatening you now, it means Trevor sees you as a problem. Good. Let him see me as a problem. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Kira tried to sit up more, winced, and settled back against the pillows. Trevor Walsh isn't just my CFO. He's connected to some very powerful people. Politicians, business leaders, people who'd rather I disappeared than expose what he's been doing. The embezzlement goes deeper than I even realized. It's not millions, Corey. It's hundreds of millions. And there are others involved. Then we give that information to the police. Let them build a case. With what evidence? Trevor's been covering his tracks for years. The forensic accountants are still trying to untangle the web he created. Kira's hands clenched on a blanket. And in the meantime, he's out there. Free. Probably planning his next move. As if summoned by her words, there was a knock at the door. Detective Bishop entered, followed by a woman in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. She was in her early 40s with sharp eyes and an air of competence. Miss Dawson, Mr. Daniels. Bishop greeted them. This is Sandra Pierce from the district attorney's office. She needs to ask you some questions. Pierce set her briefcase on the nearby table and pulled out a legal pad. Miss Dawson, I need you to walk me through everything that happened the night you were attacked. Every detail you can remember. For the next hour, Kira recounted her story. How she'd discovered discrepancies in Dontech's financial reports 3 weeks ago. How she'd hired a private forensic accountant to investigate. How she'd confronted Trevor in her office when the initial findings came back. He acted shocked, Kira said. Upset. He said there must be a mistake, that he'd look into it immediately. Then 2 days later, he called me. Said he'd found the source of the problem, that we needed to meet somewhere private to discuss it before bringing it to the board. He suggested an old warehouse complex on the east side of Ashford that Dontech used to own. Said he had documents there that would explain everything. And you went. Pierce's tone was neutral, but Corey could hear the unspoken judgment. Why would you walk into such an obvious trap? I thought I knew him. Kira's voice broke slightly. We'd worked together for 12 years. I trusted him. That was my mistake. She described arriving at the warehouse, finding Trevor waiting with 2 men she'd never seen before. They'd grabbed her immediately. Trevor had stood there watching while they beat her, demanding to know who else she'd told about the investigation. When she wouldn't answer, they'd beaten her more. Eventually, she'd passed out. I woke up in a car, Kira continued. Trunk, I think. It was dark, cramped. I could hear them talking in the front seat. They were arguing about where to dump me. I realized the trunk wasn't fully latched. When the car slowed down, I managed to kick it open and roll out onto the road. I ran. I don't even know how far. Through fields, across highways. I just kept running until I couldn't anymore. Then I collapsed, and the next thing I remember is Corey's face. Pierce made extensive notes. Did you see the men's faces? Could you identify them? Yes. I can describe them in detail. Good. We'll have you work with a sketch artist. Pierce turned to Corey. Mr. Daniels, you said you received a threatening call this morning. I'll need your phone records. We might be able to trace the number even if it was blocked. After Pierce and Bishop left to coordinate with other investigators, Corey and Kira sat in heavy silence. Through the window, morning sun streamed in, making the sterile hospital room feel slightly less oppressive. I'm scared, Kira admitted quietly. I've never been this scared in my life. Trevor knows I'm alive now. He knows I talked to the police. He's going to try again. Not while I'm here. Corey moved his chair closer. And not while there's a cop at your door. You're safe, Kira. I promise. She looked at him with those hazel eyes that held too much pain for one person. Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. You saved my son's life. But more than that, you saved our future. Hunter gets to grow up, go to school, play baseball, be a normal kid, because of you. That's not a debt I can ever fully repay, but I can start by making sure you're safe." Kira reached out and took his hand. Her grip was weak but steady. "Thank you." They stayed like that for a while, hands joined, both of them knowing that the danger was far from over, but finding comfort in not facing it alone. 3 days passed in a blur of police interviews, medical examinations, and growing media attention. The story had broken. Tech CEO survives attempted murder. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Dawn Tech's stock plummeted. The board of directors issued statements calling for calm, while privately scrambling to understand what had happened. And through it all, Trevor Walsh played his part perfectly. He gave tearful interviews expressing shock and concern for Kira. He pledged full cooperation with investigators. He even hired additional security for Dawn Tech's offices, claiming he wanted to protect the employees during this difficult time. Detective Bishop was frustrated. "We know he did it." Kira identified him as being present during the attack, but his lawyers have him locked down tight. He claims he was at a business dinner that night with a dozen witnesses. The men who actually attacked her, we haven't found them yet. And without physical evidence tying Trevor to the scene, it's all circumstantial. On the 4th day, Sandra Pierce from the DA's office came to Kira with a proposal. "We need you out of the hospital," she said bluntly. "It's too public, too many access points. Trevor Walsh has been making inquiries through his lawyers about visiting you. Technically, as your business partner, he has some standing. We can delay him, but not forever." "Where would I go?" Kira asked. "I can't go back to my apartment. Trevor has keys. He knows my routines, my security codes, everything. We have safe houses. Witness protection protocols. No." Kira shook her head. "If I disappear completely, Trevor wins. He gets to spin whatever narrative he wants about me being unstable or running away. I lose my company, my reputation, everything." Pierce looked at Detective Bishop, who'd been standing quietly by the door. "We need a third option." That's when Corey spoke up. "She can stay with me." All three of them turned to look at him. He'd been sitting in the corner, as he had been for most of the past 4 days, a quiet presence that Kira had come to rely on. "Absolutely not," Kira said immediately. "Corey, I won't put you in danger like that. We're already in danger. That threat I got 3 days ago wasn't the last one. I've had 2 more. Someone followed me home yesterday. Trevor knows I'm involved." Corey stood, addressing Pierce and Bishop. "My house is small, off the radar. Trevor wouldn't think to look there. We keep a police presence outside, and Kira stays out of sight while you build your case. It solves the problem of keeping her safe without making her completely disappear." "It's not a bad idea," Bishop said slowly. "Your address isn't connected to Kira in any way. It's not in her files, not in any database that Trevor could access." "No," Kira insisted. "I won't do that to him. To Hunter. What if Trevor finds out? What if he comes after Corey's family?" "Hunter's safe with my mother in Parkdale," Corey said. "He can stay there until this is over." "Kira, you need somewhere to recover, somewhere you feel safe. Let me do this. Please." Kira looked between the 3 of them, clearly torn. Finally, she closed her eyes and nodded. "Okay, but the second it becomes too dangerous, I leave. I won't let anyone else get hurt because of me." The next morning, they executed the transfer like a military operation. An unmarked police car took Kira out through the hospital's loading dock, wrapped in blankets like a patient being transferred to another facility. Detective Bishop drove, with Corey in the passenger seat and Kira hidden in the back. 2 more unmarked cars followed at a distance, making sure they weren't tailed. Corey's house on Oakwood Street looked even smaller than usual as they pulled up. It was a modest 2-bedroom rental in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't ask too many questions. The yard needed mowing. The paint was peeling in places. It was nothing like what Kira was used to. I know it's not much, Corey said as he helped her inside. She was moving better than she had been, but her ribs still hurt with every breath. It's perfect, Kira said, and meant it. After days in the sterile hospital surrounded by constant noise and interruption, the quiet simplicity of Corey's home felt like a sanctuary. Bishop did a sweep of the house while Corey got Kira settled in his bedroom. He'd insisted she take it, setting up an air mattress for himself in Hunter's room. Kira was too exhausted to argue. There will be an unmarked car on the street 24/7, Bishop said before leaving. Officers will rotate every 12 hours. You see anything suspicious, anything at all, you call immediately. And Miss Dawson, you stay inside. No going out, no looking out windows. Trevor Walsh has people everywhere, and we can't risk you being spotted. After Bishop left, Corey made dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti with marinara sauce and a bagged salad. But it was the first real meal Kira had eaten in days. Hospital food had tasted like cardboard. They ate at Corey's small kitchen table, the evening sun streaming through the window. It felt surreal, almost domestic. A billionaire CEO and a construction worker sharing pasta in a rental house in suburban Ashford. Tell me about Hunter, Kira said. I want to hear about him, about what happened after the surgery. So Corey told her. About the long recovery, the physical therapy, the fear that never quite went away even after the doctors declared the surgery a success. About Hunter's first day back at school, how nervous he'd been. About teaching him to ride a bike last summer, how he'd fallen a dozen times, but kept getting back up. About his obsession with space and planets, his dream of being an astronaut someday. He sounds wonderful, Kira said softly. You've done an amazing job raising him alone. His mom would have been better at it. Corey's expression grew distant. She died when he was 3. Car accident. Drunk driver. I'm so sorry. It was a long time ago. We survived. People do. Corey cleared their plates. What about you? Any family? Kira shook her head. Only son of 2 workaholics who died in a plane crash when I was 25. Built Dawntech from the ground up after that. Poured everything into the company. Never made time for relationships or starting a family of my own. I always told myself I'd do that later, after the company was established, but there was always another project, another deal, another reason to wait. It's not too late. Maybe, Kira smiled sadly. Or maybe this is my wake-up call. Build an empire but have no one to share it with. Almost get killed by someone I thought was my friend. Realize I don't even know what home feels like anymore. This can be home, Corey said. For as long as you need it. The first few days were awkward. Corey was used to having his space to himself, and Kira was used to luxury apartments and private offices. But slowly, they found a rhythm. Corey worked remotely when he could, handling logistics for Brennan's from his laptop. Kira coordinated with her lawyers and trusted board members through encrypted calls, trying to maintain some control over Dawntech while staying hidden. In the evenings, they'd sit in the living room, sometimes watching TV, sometimes just talking. Kira told him about building her company, the challenges of being a woman in tech, the loneliness that came with success. Corey told her about his time in the service, about coming home and trying to figure out how to be a civilian again, about the desperate scramble of single parenthood. On the 5th night, Corey found Kira crying quietly in the kitchen at 2 a.m. He'd gotten up for water and found her sitting at the table in the dark. Nightmares? He asked gently. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I keep seeing Trevor's face. The way he just stood there watching, while they hurt me. Someone I trusted. Someone I thought I knew. Corey sat down across from her. You know what got me through my worst nights after everything with Hunter's surgery? When the medical bills were crushing us, and I didn't know how we'd survive. What? Remembering that somewhere out there, a stranger cared enough to help. That letter you sent. I read it probably 100 times. It reminded me that the world wasn't all darkness. That good people existed. He reached across the table and took her hand. You're one of the good ones, Kira. What Trevor did doesn't change that. Evil exists, but so does goodness. And you've put more good into the world than most people ever will. Kira's tears came harder now. But they felt different. Like a release. I don't feel good. I feel broken. Broken things can be fixed. Trust me, I know. They sat in the quiet kitchen, hands joined across the worn table, two broken people finding strength in each other's presence. And for the first time since that terrible night on Route 47, Kira felt something other than fear. She felt hope. 2 weeks passed in their careful isolation. Detective Bishop provided regular updates on the investigation. They'd identified one of the men who'd attacked Kira through traffic cameras near the warehouse, but he'd disappeared. Trevor Walsh remained free, his lawyers successfully blocking every attempt to question him formally. The evidence was mounting, but slowly. Meanwhile, life in Corey's small house developed its own patterns. Mornings started with coffee on the back porch, the only outdoor space where Kira could get fresh air without being seen from the street. Afternoons meant work, both of them on laptops at opposite ends of the living room. Evenings brought dinner, conversation, and the growing realization that something was shifting between them. Corey's mother brought Hunter by for a brief visit one afternoon, carefully timed when the unmarked police car was directly outside. Patricia Daniels was a sturdy woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a protective nature that rivaled any guard dog. "So you're the woman who saved my grandson," Patricia said, studying Kira with an intensity that made her feel like she was being evaluated. "I just did what anyone would do," Kira said. "No, what you did is what good people do. There's a difference." Patricia's expression softened. "Thank you. Truly." Hunter burst through the door like a small hurricane, all energy and enthusiasm. At 8 years old, he was all arms and legs and boundless curiosity. He stopped short when he saw Kira, his eyes going wide at the fading bruises still visible on her face. "Wow," he said. "You look like you were in a fight with a superhero." "Hunter," Corey said warningly. "No, it's okay." Kira smiled at the boy. "I was in a fight. The superhero won. Were you the superhero or the villain? I'm still trying to figure that out." Hunter considered this seriously, then nodded like it made perfect sense. "Dad says you're staying with us for a while because you need help. Are you sick? Is it your heart? I had heart surgery when I was little. I know you did. And no, my heart is fine. I just need somewhere safe to stay, while some very smart people solve a problem for me. Like detectives. Exactly like detectives." Hunter seemed satisfied with this explanation. He launched into a detailed description of his current favorite topic, black holes and the event horizon, complete with wild hand gestures. Kira listened with genuine interest, asking questions that made Hunter light up even more. Watching them, Corey felt something shift in his chest. Kira wasn't just being polite. She was genuinely engaged, treating Hunter's enthusiasm with the same seriousness she probably brought to board meetings. She asked about his favorite books, his teachers, his friends. She wanted to know what he wanted to be when he grew up, and she didn't laugh when he said astronaut, veterinarian, video game designer. "Why not all three?" she said seriously. "The world needs people who can dream big." After Patricia took Hunter home, Corey found Kira standing at the back window, staring out at the small yard. "He's amazing," she said without turning around. "You've raised an incredible young person. He liked you too. That was the most I've seen him talk to a new person in months. He's been through so much. The surgery, losing his mother so young. But he's still so full of hope and enthusiasm." Kira finally turned to face him. "You've done that. Given him security, and love, and room to dream. That's extraordinary, Corey. I just do my best. Your best is better than most people's extraordinary." She moved closer. "Can I ask you something? Why did you really bring me here?" "It wasn't just about repaying a debt." Corey considered his answer, carefully. "When I found you on that road, for a second, I thought you were dead. And I felt this overwhelming sadness for a stranger. Then you opened your eyes and looked at me, and I saw so much pain and fear, but also strength." determination. Even beaten half to death, you were fighting. That mattered to me. That's not all of it. No. Corey took a breath. Then I found out who you were. The person who'd saved Hunter. And I realized that good deeds have consequences. You helped us when we had nothing. That kindness rippled out. It let me keep being a father. It let Hunter have a future. Those ripples matter, Kira. And when I had the chance to create my own ripples by helping you, I couldn't walk away. Kira's eyes shone with unshed tears. I built an entire company, donated millions to charity, but sitting in your kitchen eating spaghetti with you and Hunter, I felt more connected to humanity than I have in years. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. They were standing close now, close enough that Corey could see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her despite the careful distance they'd both been maintaining. Corey, Kira said softly, I think I'm developing feelings for you. Real feelings. And I don't know if that's appropriate or smart or even real, given the circumstances. Maybe it's just trauma bonding or gratitude or the intensity of everything that's happened. But I need you to know. Corey's heart was hammering. I've been having the same feelings and having the same doubts. But Kira, I don't think this is just circumstance. I think this is real. What do we do about it? Nothing. Not yet. Corey forced himself to step back, creating space between them. You're healing. You're in danger. Your life is chaos right now. We don't make decisions about feelings in the middle of chaos. That's very wise. I have my moments. He smiled. But when this is over, when Trevor is behind bars and you're safe and your life is yours again, we can revisit this conversation. Deal? Kira nodded, though her expression held disappointment and relief in equal measure. Deal. That night, unable to sleep, Corey sat in Hunter's room on the air mattress and thought about the impossible situation he'd found himself in. He was falling for a woman who lived in a completely different world. A billionaire CEO who ran a tech empire while he worked construction and counted every dollar. But he'd also seen her cry in his kitchen at 2 a.m. Seen her laugh at Hunter's terrible jokes. Seen her help wash dishes after dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. She wasn't just a CEO. She was Kira. Brilliant, wounded, kind, and real, in ways that had nothing to do with money or status. In the other room, Kira lay awake, thinking similar thoughts. Corey Daniels had shown her what real strength looked like. Not corporate success or financial power, but the quiet courage of showing up every day for the people you loved. Of stopping on a dark highway because someone needed help. Of opening your home to a stranger despite the danger. She'd built an empire, but Corey had built something more valuable. A life with meaning. A family. A foundation of goodness that no amount of money could buy. And she wanted to be part of that world more than she'd ever wanted anything. But first, she had to survive. Had to make sure Trevor Walsh faced justice. Had to reclaim her life and her company. Only then could she think about what came next. In their separate rooms, both of them stared at the ceiling and wondered if what they were feeling could survive beyond the crucible of crisis they were living through. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, in the safety of Corey's small house, they both allowed themselves to hope that maybe, just maybe, something beautiful could bloom from the ashes of tragedy. And hope, as they were both learning, was the most powerful force in the world. The breaking point came on day 16. Corey woke to his phone buzzing frantically with notifications. News alerts, text messages, missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. He grabbed the phone, his stomach sinking as he read the headlines. Mystery man harboring tech CEO, romance or ransom. Kira Dawson living with unknown male. Mental health crisis or secret relationship. Dawntech CEO's strange disappearance. What is she hiding? Trevor Walsh had gone on the offensive. Corey found Kira already awake in the living room, her laptop open, face pale as she scrolled through article after article. Someone had leaked information about her location. Not the exact address, but enough details that reporters had pieced together she was staying with a local man in Ashford. "They're destroying me," Kira said, her voice hollow. "Look at this." Trevor gave an interview to Financial Daily. He's claiming I've been under tremendous stress, that I've been making erratic decisions for months, that my disappearance is concerning, and the board is considering emergency measures to protect the company. It's all lies. But it's effective lies. Kira clicked to another article. "The board is meeting tomorrow. Without me, Trevor has convinced them that I'm unstable, that I need help, that maybe I should step down temporarily for my own good. He's going to take control of my company, while painting himself as the concerned colleague trying to save Dantec from my mental breakdown." Corey's phone rang. "Detective Bishop." "You've seen the news," Bishop said without preamble. "Yeah." "How did they find out?" "Someone in the department leaked information. We're investigating, but the damage is done." Trevor Walsh held a press conference an hour ago. "Corey, it's bad. He's spinning a narrative that Kira fled the hospital against medical advice, that she's refusing to cooperate with the legitimate investigation, that she's being influenced by outside parties. Outside parties meaning me." "Exactly. He's implying you're taking advantage of her vulnerability. Some of the articles are already speculating about your motives." After hanging up, Corey read some of those articles. They painted him as either a gold digger who'd somehow manipulated a traumatized billionaire, or worse, as potentially being involved in her kidnapping. Social media was already running wild with theories. His phone rang again. Sam Brennan from work. "Corey, I just saw the news. Tell me this isn't what it looks like." "It's not, Sam. I swear. She needed help. I'm just giving her a safe place to stay. I believe you. But I'm getting calls from reporters asking about you. About your character, your finances, whether you've been acting strange lately. This is affecting the business. I've got clients calling, asking questions. I'm sorry, Sam. I never meant for this to blow back on you. I know you didn't. But I need you to understand, if this gets worse, I might have to officially distance the company from the situation. It's not personal, it's business." The calls kept coming. Patricia from Parkdale, worried about Hunter being dragged into the media circus. Parents from Hunter's school, asking if the rumors were true. Even Corey's landlord, concerned about all the attention the property was getting. By noon, there were 3 news vans parked on Oakwood Street. Reporters knocked on neighbors' doors, asking questions about Corey. About Kira. About what they'd seen. The unmarked police car outside Corey's house became a regular patrol car, unable to maintain cover now that everyone knew something was happening. Inside the house, the walls felt like they were closing in. Kira paced the living room, her phone pressed to her ear as she tried to coordinate with her lawyers and the few board members she still trusted. "They're freezing me out," she said, after one particularly heated call. "Trevor has convinced the board that I'm not in a position to make decisions right now. They're voting tomorrow on temporarily suspending my authority as CEO. He'll step in as interim leader. By the time this all gets sorted out legally, he'll have consolidated enough power that I'll never get my company back. There has to be something we can do." "Like what?" "I can't exactly show up to a board meeting looking like this." Kira gestured to her still, healing face. "And even if I could, Trevor has already seeded enough doubt that anything I say will sound desperate or delusional. He's won, Corey. He tried to kill me, failed, and now he's killing my reputation instead. The end result is the same. He gets Dantec." The situation deteriorated further when Corey's mother called in tears. Reporters had shown up at her house in Parkdale. They'd approached Hunter at the park, trying to ask him questions about his father and the woman staying at their house. Patricia had intervened immediately, but the damage was done. Hunter was confused and scared. "I can't keep him here anymore," Patricia said. "It's not safe with these vultures circling. But I can't bring him to your house either. Not with all those cameras outside. I know, Mom. I'm working on it. But what was there to work on? Every option seemed to lead to more exposure, more danger, more chaos. That evening, Corey found Kira standing at the back door, staring out at the yard she couldn't safely enter anymore. Her shoulders were slumped in defeat. I should leave, she said quietly. Go into actual witness protection, like Sandra Pierce suggested. Let Trevor have Dantec. Let him think he's won. At least then your life can go back to normal. There is no normal anymore. Not for either of us. Corey moved to stand beside her. And you're not giving up your company. We're not letting Trevor win. How do we stop him? He's 3 moves ahead of us on every front. Then we change the game. An idea was forming in Corey's mind. A risky idea, possibly a terrible idea, but the only one he could see that might work. What if you didn't hide anymore? What if you went public with your side of the story? Corey, I told you, Trevor has already poisoned the narrative. So we create a new narrative. A true one. He turned to face her. You do a press conference. You tell the world exactly what happened. Trevor's embezzlement. The attack. Everything. You show them that you're not unstable or running away. You're fighting back. Trevor's lawyers will destroy me. And without hard proof of his involvement in the attack, it becomes, he said, she said. His word against mine. Guess which one the public will believe? Maybe, but at least you'll have spoken your truth. At least the board will hear directly from you before they vote. And maybe, just maybe, it'll force Trevor to make a mistake. Criminals get nervous when their victims stop acting like victims. Kira was quiet for a long moment, considering. It's risky. Everything about this situation is risky. But you didn't build a billion-dollar company by playing it safe. A small smile tugged at Kira's lips. No, I didn't. She took a deep breath. Okay, let's do it. Let's tell the truth and see what happens. They spent the next 2 hours coordinating with Sandra Pierce and Detective Bishop. The DA's office was initially against the idea, worried it would compromise the investigation. But Bishop saw the strategic value. Trevor thinks he's controlling the narrative, Bishop said. A press conference catches him off guard, forces him to respond, and when people respond under pressure, they make mistakes. They scheduled the conference for the next morning at the Ashford Police Department. Neutral ground, official setting. Sandra Pierce would be present to make it clear this wasn't just a publicity stunt but part of an active investigation. That night, Corey helped Kira prepare her statement. She wrote and rewrote it a dozen times, trying to find the right balance between emotional truth and factual precision. Around midnight, she finally set down her pen. What if this makes everything worse? She asked. Then we deal with worse together. But Kira, you've spent 2 weeks hiding, letting Trevor control the story. Tomorrow, you take that power back. No matter what happens after, at least, you'll have stood up and fought. Kira reached across the table and took his hand. I couldn't do this without you. You know that, right? Whatever happens, tomorrow, whatever comes next, I need you to know that you saved me in every way a person can be saved. You saved yourself. I just gave you a place to do it from. They sat in the quiet kitchen, hands joined, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything again. But unlike that night on Route 47, this time Kira wasn't running. This time she was fighting back. And sometimes, Corey thought, that made all the difference. The Ashford Police Department's press room was packed by 10 a.m. Reporters from local and national outlets. Cameras. Microphones. The energy in the room was electric. Everyone sensing they were about to witness something significant. Backstage, Kira stood in front of a mirror, studying her reflection. She'd done her best with makeup to cover the worst of the bruising, but you could still see it if you looked closely. Good, she thought. Let them see what Trevor did. She wore a simple gray suit that Sandra Pierce had brought her. Professional, but not. ostentatious. Her dark hair was pulled back, no jewelry except for a simple watch. She looked like a CEO, but also like someone who'd been through hell and survived it. "You ready?" Corey asked. He'd insisted on being there, despite Kira's protests that he'd already done enough. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Detective Bishop gave them a 5-minute warning. Sandra Pierce went through the plan one more time. Kira would make her statement. Pierce would provide official context about the investigation. Then they'd take limited questions. Bishop's people had already screened the reporters, but there was no way to control what they'd ask. "Remember," Pierce said, "stick to the facts. Don't let emotion override the message, and if any question feels like a trap, defer to me." Kira nodded, her hands surprisingly steady. Months ago, a press conference would have been routine, but this was different. This time, she wasn't talking about quarterly earnings or product launches. She was fighting for her life and her company. They walked out together, Pierce and Bishop flanking Kira. The camera flashes were blinding. Questions shouted from every direction. But Kira kept her eyes forward, moving to the podium with as much confidence as she could muster. The room quieted as she adjusted the microphone. "My name is Kira Dawson," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I am the founder and CEO of Dawntech Industries. 3 weeks ago, I discovered evidence that my CFO, Trevor Walsh, had been systematically embezzling funds from the company for at least 2 years. When I confronted him with this evidence, he arranged to have me kidnapped, beaten, and left for dead on a rural highway outside the city." The room erupted, shouted questions, gasps of shock. Sandra Pierce stepped forward. "Please hold your questions until the end." Kira continued, describing the attack in clinical detail. The warehouse, the 2 hired men, Trevor standing by and watching. Her escape and desperate run through the darkness. Being found by Corey Daniels on Route 47. "I have been recovering from my injuries while working with law enforcement to build a case against Trevor Walsh. The narrative that I am mentally unstable, or that my disappearance was voluntary, is a calculated lie designed to discredit me, while Mr. Walsh attempts to take control of Dawntech. I am here today to state unequivocally that I am of sound mind, that the allegations against Trevor Walsh are true and supported by evidence, and that I will not allow a criminal to destroy the company I built, or harm anyone else in his attempt to avoid justice." She paused, looking directly into the cameras. "Trevor, I know you're watching this. You tried to kill me because I discovered your crimes. But I survived. And now everyone knows what you are. The embezzlement investigation is ongoing. The attempted murder case is being built. Your days of hiding behind expensive suits and fake concern are over." The press conference continued for another 20 minutes. Sandra Pierce outlined the investigation status without revealing sensitive details. Detective Bishop confirmed that Trevor Walsh was a person of interest in the attack. Reporters asked predictable questions about the evidence. The timeline, Kira's relationship with Corey. "Mr. Daniels is a good Samaritan who found me when I was dying and gave me a safe place to recover," Kira said firmly. "Any suggestion that there's anything improper about our relationship is insulting to a man who showed extraordinary kindness with no expectation of reward. He saved my life. I will be forever grateful to him." After the conference, Kira was whisked away for more meetings with her lawyers and the Dawntech board members who'd remained loyal. The press conference had done exactly what they'd hoped. It had forced the board to pause their vote on suspending her authority. They couldn't move forward now without hearing her side directly. Meanwhile, Trevor Walsh was in full damage control mode. His lawyers released a statement calling Kira's allegations baseless and defamatory. He claimed he was being scapegoated for financial irregularities he'd actually discovered and reported. He painted himself as the victim of a smear campaign by someone whose mental state was clearly compromised. But cracks were forming in his facade. 2 members of the board, who'd been supporting Trevor, suddenly requested emergency meetings with Kira's lawyers. One of the men who'd attacked Kira was identified through traffic cameras and arrested in a neighboring state. When offered a plea deal, he started talking. His name is Vincent Cross. Detective Bishop told them 3 days after the press conference. Career criminal, hired muscle. And he's willing to testify that Trevor Walsh paid him $50,000 to eliminate you. He kept text messages, financial records, everything we need. The case against Trevor was no longer circumstantial. It was ironclad. 4 days later, Detective Bishop and a team of officers arrived at Trevor Walsh's estate in the wealthy Lakewood Heights neighborhood. They had a warrant for his arrest on charges of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and fraud. Trevor's lawyers tried to negotiate, to arrange a voluntary surrender, but Bishop wasn't interested in giving him any more control. They arrested him at his home, in front of the cameras that had been following the story. The footage of Trevor Walsh being led away in handcuffs made national news. Corey and Kira watched it together from his living room. The media circus outside his house had died down somewhat after the press conference, though there were still occasional reporters hoping for a statement. Kira had her hand pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face, as she watched the man who'd tried to kill her finally face consequences. "It's over," she whispered. "It's actually over. The criminal case is over," Corey corrected gently. "But you still have a company to reclaim." The Dawn Tech board met the following week. This time, Kira attended via secure video link. Still not ready to return to Seattle in person. She presented the forensic accounting evidence, showed the paper trail of Trevor's embezzlement, and outlined her plan to restructure the company's financial oversight to prevent anything like this from happening again. The vote was unanimous. Trevor Walsh was removed as CFO. All his authority was revoked, and Kira Dawson was reinstated as CEO with the board's full support and apology for doubting her. When the video call ended, Kira sat in Corey's kitchen and cried. Not tears of grief or fear this time, but relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. "You did it," Corey said, putting a hand on her shoulder. "You fought back, and you won." "We did it," Kira corrected. "I couldn't have survived this without you." Outside, autumn was giving way to early winter. The trees on Oakwood Street were mostly bare now. Thanksgiving was approaching, and for the first time in weeks, both Kira and Corey could think about the future without fear clouding everything. Trevor Walsh's trial would come eventually, months from now, but the immediate danger had passed. Kira was safe. Her company was secure. Justice was being served. Now came the harder question. What happened next? The first snow of the season fell on Thanksgiving morning. Light flurries that dusted the streets of Ashford with white. Corey stood at his kitchen window, watching Hunter play in the yard. His son had been back home for a week now, the media attention having finally died down enough that life could return to something approaching normal. Except normal didn't exist anymore. Not really. Kira had been staying with them for almost a month now. Her physical injuries had healed. The bruises had faded to yellow and then to nothing. Her ribs no longer hurt when she breathed. She was healthy again, strong again. Which meant it was time to make decisions about the future. She emerged from the bedroom, dressed in jeans and a sweater Corey had bought her during one of his careful shopping trips to avoid photographers. She looked different from the broken woman he'd found on Route 47, different even from the powerful CEO in those press photos. She looked real, present, happy in a way that had nothing to do with stock prices or board meetings. "Hunter's excited about today," Kira said, moving to stand beside Corey at the window. "He's been telling me for a week about his grandmother's famous stuffing. Mom's Thanksgiving dinners are legendary. She goes all out." Corey glanced at her. "You're still okay with coming? I know meeting the extended family might be overwhelming." "Are you kidding? I'm thrilled. I can't remember the last time I celebrated Thanksgiving with actual people instead of reviewing quarterly projections alone in my apartment." She paused. "Although I should probably warn you that your family is going to ask questions about us, about what we are." There it was. The question they'd been dancing around for weeks. What were they? "What do you want to tell them?" Corey asked. "I don't know." "What do you want us to be?" Before Corey could answer, Hunter burst through the back door in a flurry of snow and excitement. "Dad, Kira, come look, I made a snow angel." They bundled up and went outside, admiring Hunter's creation and helping him make several more. For a perfect half hour, nothing else mattered except cold air, laughter, and the simple joy of playing in the first snow. Later, at Patricia's house in Parkdale, the Daniels family gathered in full force, Corey's two sisters with their families, his aunt and uncle, various cousins. The house was warm and loud and filled with the smell of roasting turkey and all the traditional fixings. Patricia pulled Corey aside while Kira was helping Hunter set the table. "She's lovely," his mother said. "Really lovely. But Corey, what happens when she goes back to Seattle? Back to her real life?" "I don't know, Mom." "Does she know? Have you two actually talked about what comes next?" "Not really. We've been too focused on just surviving." Patricia squeezed his hand. "Well, it's time to talk about more than surviving. That woman looks at you like you hung the moon, and you look at her the same way. But you live in different worlds. You need to figure out if those worlds can coexist before someone gets hurt." The Thanksgiving meal was everything Hunter had promised. Patricia's famous stuffing, perfectly roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, 3 types of pie. Everyone crowded around the extended table, passing dishes and sharing stories. Kira fit in seamlessly, asking questions, laughing at jokes, treating everyone with genuine warmth. After dinner, while the adults lingered over coffee and pie, Hunter pulled Kira aside. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you going to leave? Go back to your company and your big house?" Kira knelt down to Hunter's level. "I do have to go back to Seattle eventually. My company needs me. But what about us? What about Dad? What about your dad?" Hunter's expression was serious beyond his 8 years. "He likes you. Really likes you. And you like him too. I can tell. So why can't you just stay here?" "It's more complicated than that, sweetie. Grown-ups always say, things are complicated. But they're not. If you like each other and we're happy when you're here, then you should stay. Or we should come with you. That's not complicated. That's just deciding what's important." Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds, Kira thought, "You're pretty smart, you know that?" "I know." Hunter grinned. "So are you staying or what?" "I don't know yet, but I promise, whatever I decide, I'll make sure you and your dad know why." "Deal, deal." That evening, after they'd returned to Ashford and Hunter was in bed, Corey and Kira finally had the conversation they'd been avoiding. They sat on the back porch, despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, watching snow continue to fall. "We need to talk about what happens next," Corey said. "I know." Kira pulled her blanket tighter. "I've been offered my full position back at Dawn Tech. The board wants me in Seattle by mid-December to oversee the transition and manage the fallout from Trevor's arrest. I need to go back, Corey. It's my company, my responsibility. I know you do, but I don't want to leave you, or Hunter. These past weeks, living in your small house, eating dinner at your kitchen table, playing in the snow with your son, I've been happier than I've been in years, maybe ever. You've shown me what actually matters. What real life looks like when it's not all about work and success and proving yourself. Seattle is 3 hours away by plane. We can make long-distance work. Video calls, weekend visits. For how long? A month? 6 months? A year?" Kira shook her head. "I've seen how those relationships go. The distance erodes things. People drift apart. And you have Hunter to think about. He needs stability, not a confusing situation where the woman he's gotten attached to is barely around." "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to make a choice. Either I fully commit to Dawn Tech and accept that this thing between us was beautiful but temporary, or I restructure my entire life to make room for what we could be." She turned to face him. "But I can't make that choice alone. I need to know what you want. Really want." Corey was quiet for a long moment. I want you in our lives. Not as an occasional visitor or a voice on a video screen. I want you here, present, real. But Kira, I can't ask you to give up your company. Everything you built. That wouldn't be fair. What if I didn't have to give it up? What if I could have both? How? I've been thinking about this for days. DawnTech needs a CEO, but it doesn't necessarily need a CEO in Seattle 24/7. I have a strong executive team. People I trust now more than ever after they stood by me during the Trevor situation. What if I appointed a president of operations to handle day-to-day management? Someone who reports directly to me, who can run things when I'm not physically there. I'd still be CEO, still set the vision and strategy, but I wouldn't have to live in Seattle. You'd do that. Restructure your entire company, so you could be here. I'd restructure my entire life to be here. Kira's eyes shone in the dim light. Corey, I love you. I think I started falling for you that first night when you held my hand in the hospital and promised I wasn't alone. Every day since then, that love has grown. You and Hunter, you're my family now. You're what I want to come home to. Not an empty apartment, not a corner office. You. Corey felt his throat tighten with emotion. I love you too. God, I love you so much. But are you sure? Really sure? Because once you make this choice, there's no going back. Your life will never be the same. Good. I don't want my old life back. I want this life. With you. With Hunter. With family dinners and snow angels. And knowing that at the end of every day, I'm not alone. She took his hands in hers. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'll still have to travel. There will be challenges. But if you're willing to try, if you're willing to build this life with me, then I'm all in. Corey pulled her close, kissing her with everything he'd been holding back for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. So you're staying, Corey said. I'm staying. Or more accurately, I'm splitting my time. I'll need to be in Seattle. Maybe 1 week a month. The rest of the time, I'll be here. With you. If that works. It more than works. Corey kissed her again. But we're going to need a bigger house. Already thought of that. There's a property for sale, 2 streets over. 4 bedrooms, big yard, enough space for an office where I can work remotely. I ran the numbers. It's within what I can afford. You've really thought this through. I'm a CEO. I don't make decisions without data. She smiled. But this decision isn't about data. It's about knowing what matters. And you matter, Corey. You and Hunter. More than any company or bank account or corporate success. You matter most. They sat on the porch for hours, making plans and dreaming about the future. Kira would return to Seattle in 2 weeks to handle the transition. She'd hire a president of operations, restructure her role, set up systems that would allow her to lead DawnTech without living there full-time. Then, she'd come back to Ashford. Back home, inside the house, Hunter had woken up to get water and saw them through the window. He saw his dad and Kara holding each other, saw them laughing and talking and looking happy. He smiled to himself and went back to bed, satisfied that the adults had finally figured out what he'd known all along. Some people were meant to be family, even when they started as strangers. And sometimes the best things in life came from the worst moments. If you were brave enough to hold on and fight for what mattered. Hunter fell asleep thinking about snow angels and Thanksgiving dinner and how his family had just gotten bigger in the best possible way. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and changes. But tonight, everyone he loved was safe and happy and together. And that was more than enough. 6 months later, on a warm May evening, Corey Daniels stood in the backyard of the house on Maple Street, watching Hunter chase fireflies while Kira set up the outdoor speakers for their housewarming party. The 4-bedroom colonial they'd purchased together had become home faster than he'd imagined possible. Family photos lined the hallways. Hunter's drawings covered the refrigerator, Kira's home office occupied the sunroom, where she managed Dantech's operations 3 weeks out of every month. The transition hadn't been seamless. There had been challenges, adjustments, moments when the distance and complexity of blending their worlds felt overwhelming. But they'd worked through each obstacle together, building something stronger with every compromise and conversation. Trevor Walsh's trial had concluded in March. Guilty. On all counts, he'd received 25 years without possibility of parole. Kira had testified, her voice steady and clear as she recounted every detail of his betrayal and the attack. When the verdict was read, she'd squeezed Corey's hand and finally let go of the last remnants of fear she'd been carrying. Dantech was thriving under the new structure. Kira's handpicked president of operations, a brilliant woman named Dr. Sarah Kim, handled daily management while Kira focused on strategy and vision. The company's stock had recovered and then exceeded its previous highs. Investors appreciated the transparency and accountability that came with the new leadership structure. But the real measure of success, Kira often said, wasn't in quarterly earnings. It was in moments like this one, standing in her backyard, surrounded by people she loved, knowing that she'd chosen life over work, connection over isolation, love over fear. Patricia arrived first, carrying her famous potato salad and immediately pulling Hunter into a hug. Corey's sisters followed with their families. Sam Brennan from the construction company, who'd become a good friend. Detective Bishop and his wife. Sandra Pierce from the DA's office. Even some of Kira's colleagues from Dantech, who'd flown in from Seattle for the celebration. As the sun set in the party filled with laughter and conversation, Corey found himself thinking about that night on Route 47, how close he'd come to driving past, how easily he could have been 5 minutes earlier or later, missing Kira entirely, how one decision to stop, to help, to care about a stranger, had transformed everything. Hunter appeared at his side, holding a firefly carefully cupped in his hands. "Dad, look, I caught one." "That's great, buddy. What are you going to do with it?" "Let it go. Kira says that's what you do with beautiful things. You appreciate them, and then set them free so they can keep being beautiful for other people." Corey smiled, recognizing Kira's philosophy in his son's words. "She's pretty smart. You're Kira, Mom." "I know." Hunter opened his hands and watched the firefly float away, its light blinking in the darkness. "Dad, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't found her that night?" "All the time." "Me too. I think maybe we were supposed to find each other. Like the universe knew we all needed to be a family." Before Corey could respond, Kira appeared, sliding her arm around his waist. "What are my two favorite people talking about?" "Destiny," Hunter said seriously, "and fireflies. Two of my favorite topics." Kira kissed the top of Hunter's head. "Why don't you go show your cousins how to catch them?" As Hunter ran off, Kira and Corey stood together, watching their family and friends fill the yard with warmth and joy. "Can you believe it's only been 6 months?" Kira asked. "It feels like we've been doing this forever." "The good kind of forever. The best kind." She turned to face him. "I have something to tell you. The board met yesterday. They've approved a new initiative I've been working on. We're starting a foundation specifically for families facing medical emergencies. Full funding for procedures, no questions asked, no repayment required. We're calling it the Second Chances Foundation." Corey's eyes filled with tears. "Kira, that's incredible. It's because of you and Hunter. Because I learned that the best investment isn't in technology or stock portfolios. It's in people, in giving them the chance to build lives worth living." She took his hands. "Every family we help, that's your legacy too. Because you stopped that night. Because you chose compassion over convenience. Because you showed me what really matters." Around them, the party continued. Patricia was teaching Kira's Seattle colleagues how to play a card game. Hunter was showing the younger cousins his telescope. Detective Bishop was deep in conversation with Sam Brennan about vintage cars. It was chaotic and loud and absolutely perfect. Later that night, after everyone had left and Hunter was asleep, Corey and Kira sat on their back porch, just as they had that Thanksgiving evening when they decided to build a life together. The fireflies were out in full force, creating a light show in the darkness. "Do you have any regrets?" Corey asked. "About restructuring your life? About choosing this over what you had before?" Kira didn't hesitate. "Not even for a second. I was successful before, but I wasn't living. I was existing. There's a difference." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You taught me that. You. And Hunter, you taught me that life isn't about what you achieve. It's about who you love and who loves you back. It's about showing up for people, about stopping when someone needs help, even when it's inconvenient or scary or complicated." "I was terrified that night," Corey admitted. "When I saw you lying there, I almost kept driving because I was so scared. But you didn't. You stopped. And that choice changed everything." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fireflies dance. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car passed. The normal sounds of suburban life that had become their soundtrack. Corey thought about all the moments that had led them here. The late shifts at Brennan's, the surgery that had saved Hunter, the foggy night on Route 47, the fear and danger and triumph. Every piece had been necessary to build this life they now shared. "Thank you," Kira whispered, "for stopping that night, for staying, for showing me what home feels like. Thank you for letting me help, for trusting me, for choosing us." Inside the house, they could hear Hunter stirring, probably getting water from the bathroom. Their son, their family, their beautiful, complicated, perfect life. It had all started with one choice on a dark highway. One decision to stop when someone needed help. One act of kindness that had rippled outward, creating waves of change neither of them could have predicted. And as they sat together in the firefly-lit darkness, both Corey and Kira understood the most important truth they'd learned. That every choice matters, every kindness counts, and sometimes the most extraordinary lives are built from the simplest acts of human decency. Stopping for a stranger, offering shelter to someone in need, choosing love over fear. These were the things that changed the world, one person at a time. And their story was proof that miracles still happened, as long as someone was brave enough to stop and help when help was needed most. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.